Let me tell you something. If you have a good woman in your life, you're walking around with a gift that most people spend their lives chasing. But here's the catch: too many people don't even see it. They overlook it, they get comfortable, and before they know it, that gift slips right through their finger. Define a good woman. A good woman is far more than the cliches and surface level acknowledgement society often attaches to her. She is the quiet force behind stability, the steady hand guiding through chaos, and the unwavering presence that often goes unnoticed because she doesn't demand the spotlight. She doesn't do what she does for recognition or applause. She does it because it's in her nature to nurture, support, and uplift. She is a builder, a protector, and a partner in every sense of the word. But too often, her strength and consistency are misinterpreted as things that don't require acknowledgement or appreciation. This misinterpretation is where the danger lies. When a good woman enters your life, she brings value that isn't always loud or flashy. It's in the small things, the unseen efforts, and the quiet sacrifices she makes to ensure the people she loves thrive. She's the one who stays up late worrying about how to make things better for you, even if she never voices it. She's the one who listens to your dreams and then turns around and helps you build the foundation to achieve them. She's the one who remembers the details, who picks up on your unspoken struggles, and who works behind the scenes to lighten your load in ways you might not even realize. What sets a good woman apart is her ability to give without expecting anything in return. She loves deeply and gives freely, not because she has to, but because she chooses to. This choice comes from her strength, her empathy, and her ability to see potential where others might only see flaws. She isn't perfect, no one is, but her imperfection doesn't diminish her value, it adds to it. Her willingness to embrace the messy, hard parts of life and still show up every day is a testament to her character. And yet, despite all this, it's easy to overlook her contributions. People get comfortable. They start to see her sacrifices as routine. Her efforts as just part of the deal. They assume she'll always be there, always giving, always understanding. This complacency is one of the greatest disrespects a person can show a good woman. It's not just about forgetting to say thank you, it's about failing to recognize the depth of what she brings to the table. It's about letting her strength and consistency fade into the background of your life as though they're guaranteed and unchanging. But here's the truth: no one, not even the strongest woman, can pour from an empty cup forever. When you take a good woman for granted, you slowly chip away at the trust and bond that make your relationship strong. It might not happen overnight, but the cracks will start to show. Resentment builds, even if she doesn't voice it right away. Her efforts might continue for a while because she's committed and loyal, but eventually she'll reach a breaking point. And when that happens, it's not just her love and support that you lose, it's the foundation she helped build. A good woman will walk away when she realizes her worth isn't being recognized. Not because she's selfish, but because she knows she deserves better. And when she's gone, the void she leaves will be undeniable. You'll look around and see all the things she held together, all the ways she enriched your life, and you'll realize too late how much you relied on her. The irony is that the very qualities that made her so easy to take for granted, her steadiness, her selflessness, her quiet strength, are the ones you'll miss the most. This isn't about living in fear of losing her. It's about understanding what you have while you still have it. It's about waking up to the reality that relationships require effort, gratitude, and active participation. You can't just coast and expect things to remain the same. Love is not a one-time declaration, it's a daily choice. And choosing to truly see and appreciate a good woman is one of the most important choices you can make. Appreciation isn't just about grand gestures or occasional words of thanks. It's about being present and attentive. It's about noticing the little things she does and making sure she knows they matter. It's about showing up for her the way she shows up for you. It's about respecting her boundaries, supporting her goals, and making space for her to grow. A good woman doesn't need constant praise or adoration, but she does deserve to feel valued and seen. Taking a good woman for granted isn't just a disservice to her, it's a disservice to yourself. When you fail to honor the person who has your back, who believes in you even when you don't believe in yourself, you're missing out on the kind of partnership that can elevate every aspect of your life. Recognizing her worth and treating her with the respect she deserves isn't just about keeping her in your life, it's about building a relationship that is strong, fulfilling, and enduring. Value and sacrifices. A good woman's sacrifices often go unnoticed because they aren't loud or demanding. They are quiet, woven into the fabric of daily life, and easily mistaken for things that just happen. But they don't just happen. Behind every moment of ease or comfort, there is effort. Behind every solution to a problem you didn't even know existed, there is thoughtfulness. A good woman sacrifices her time, energy, and often her own desires to create a space where others can thrive. These sacrifices aren't born out of obligation. They come from love and an unwavering commitment to the people she cares about. Yet in the rush of life, it's easy to overlook how much she gives and how little she asks for in return. Think about what it means to give up a piece of yourself so that someone else can flourish. That's not something just anyone does, and it's certainly not something to be taken lightly. A good woman will put aside her own needs to ensure her loved ones are supported. She'll prioritize your dreams, sometimes at the expense of her own. She'll stay up late making sure everything is okay, even if it means she doesn't get the rest she desperately needs. She'll carry burdens you don't even realize are there because she doesn't want to add to your stress. These sacrifices are acts of love, but they're also heavy, and carrying them without acknowledgement can take a toll. What makes these sacrifices so remarkable is that they often come without complaint. A good woman doesn't wave a flag announcing what she's done for you. She doesn't seek validation or a pat on the back. She sacrifices because she believes in you, because she sees potential in you, and because she wants to be part of your growth and success. But just because she doesn't ask for recognition doesn't mean she doesn't need it. There's a fine line between appreciating her strength and taking it for granted, and too often, that line is crossed without anyone even realizing it. The thing about sacrifices is that they're sustainable only when they're balanced with appreciation and reciprocity. A good woman can give endlessly when she feels valued, but when her efforts go unnoticed, it creates a quiet erosion in the relationship. The weight of unacknowledged sacrifices builds up, and over time, it can lead to feelings of resentment and emotional fatigue. She may not say anything right away because she's used to being the strong one, the one who holds things together. But strength doesn't mean invincibility, and every person has their breaking point. What many people fail to understand is that sacrificing doesn't mean losing oneself completely. It's a choice, not a default. A good woman makes that choice because she believes in something greater than herself, whether it's a partnership, a family, or a shared dream. But if she's the only one sacrificing, if she's the only one consistently giving, then what was once an act of love begins to feel like an obligation. And when love starts to feel like a burden, the foundation of the relationship begins to crack. When you recognize the sacrifices a good woman makes, you honor not just her actions, but the love and intention behind them. It's not enough to assume she knows you appreciate her. You have to show it. You have to meet her halfway. That means making sacrifices of your own, not because you're keeping score, but because relationships are partnerships. It means stepping up and lightening her load, even if she doesn't ask for help. It means taking the time to truly understand what she's giving up to make your life better and finding ways to give back. A good woman's sacrifices are a gift, not a given. They are acts of love that deserve to be cherished and reciprocated. When you fail to see them, you diminish the value of what she's offering. When you take them for granted, you risk losing something irreplaceable. But when you choose to honor her sacrifices, when you acknowledge them, appreciate them, and make the effort to give back, you create a space where love can grow and thrive. There's a strength in sacrifice, but there's also a vulnerability. Every time a good woman puts someone else's needs ahead of her own, she's trusting that her efforts won't be dismissed. She's trusting that the person she's supporting will value her enough to recognize the depth of her commitment. Don't betray that trust. Don't let her sacrifices become invisible. Make the effort to see her, to understand her, and to give her the love and support she deserves. Because a good woman's sacrifices are not just an act of love, they are a call to action, a challenge for you to rise to her level of commitment and care. Common tendency to take for granted. There's a strange thing about human nature. We often fail to truly value the things that are constant. When someone is there for us day after day, through every trial and triumph, their presence can start to feel like a given. This is the dangerous trap of familiarity, where the very qualities that make a good woman indispensable are the ones most likely to be taken for granted. Her strength becomes expected. Her sacrifices become routine. Her unwavering support becomes something you assume will always be there no matter what. But nothing, not even the most enduring love, is immune to neglect. When a good woman gives herself to someone, she does so completely. She invests her energy, her time, and her heart, often without hesitation. Her consistency is not a flaw, it's her greatest strength. But in a world that often celebrates fleeting excitement over steady devotion, her reliability can become invisible. The same way people can forget the importance of a steady heartbeat or the quiet rhythm of breathing, the steadfast presence of a good woman can fade into the background of life. It's not that she isn't appreciated on some level, it's that her value becomes so deeply embedded in daily life that it's easy to forget how essential she is. This tendency to overlook her contributions doesn't happen overnight. It begins in small ways with moments of distraction or misgratitude. Maybe you start to let her acts of kindness go unacknowledged because you're busy. Maybe you assume she knows how much she means to you, so you don't bother to remind her. Maybe you lean on her strengths so much that you forget she has her own vulnerabilities and needs. Over time, these little oversights accumulate, creating a pattern of complacency that erodes the foundation of your relationship. A good woman is not invincible. She may be strong, but strength doesn't mean she's immune to feeling unappreciated or overlooked. When you fail to recognize her value, it doesn't just hurt her, it diminishes the bond between you. Relationships thrive on mutual effort, respect, and acknowledgement. When one person is consistently giving more than they receive, it creates an imbalance that can't be sustained indefinitely. A good woman might endure this imbalance for a time, hoping things will change, but even the most patient heart has its limits. What's often misunderstood is that a good woman doesn't give of herself because she has to. She gives because she wants to. She chooses to be there, to care, to nurture, and to support. But that choice is not permanent if it's met with indifference. She might stay because she loves deeply, but love without reciprocity becomes a slow drain on her spirit. She might fight for the relationship because she believes in its potential, but no one can fight alone forever. If her efforts are continually met with complacency or neglect, she will eventually walk away not because she stopped loving, but because she realized she wasn't being loved in the way she deserves. The tragedy of taking a good woman for granted is that her absence is often felt most acutely once she's gone. It's then in the silence and emptiness she leaves behind that the full weight of her contributions becomes clear. The things that once seemed so small and ordinary, the way she listened, the way she cared, the way she made life easier, suddenly loom large in their absence. The very qualities that were taken for granted become the ones most missed. And by then, it's often too late to undo the damage. Recognizing a good woman's value doesn't require grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It's about the daily choices you make to show her that she matters. It's about paying attention to her needs, even when she doesn't voice them. It's about thanking her for the little things, the quiet sacrifices that make your life better. It's about being present, not just physically, but emotionally, and showing her that her efforts are seen and appreciated. When you value a good woman, you create a space where she can continue to give without feeling depleted. You build a partnership where her consistency is matched by your own, where her strength is supported rather than exploited, and where her love is met with equal devotion. This kind of mutual respect and appreciation doesn't just strengthen the relationship, it elevates both people involved. It creates a bond that is not only enduring but also fulfilling. The most powerful relationships are built on a foundation of recognition and gratitude. A good woman doesn't need to be put on a pedestal, but she does need to feel valued. She needs to know that her efforts matter, that her love is reciprocated, and that her presence is not taken for granted. Because when you truly see her for who she is and what she brings to your life, you don't just keep her, you inspire her to be her best self, just as she inspires you to be yours. Don't wait until it's too late to recognize her worth. Show her every single day that her consistency, her strength, and her love are not just appreciated, they are cherished. Consequences of neglect. Neglecting a good woman's contributions can lead to consequences that ripple far beyond the immediate relationship. It's not just about how she feels in the moment, it's about the long-term erosion of trust, intimacy, and respect that can damage even the strongest bond. A good woman doesn't give her love or loyalty lightly. When she invests in someone, she does so with her whole heart, believing in the potential of the connection. But when her efforts are met with disregard or complacency, the cracks in the foundation begin to appear. These cracks may seem small at first, but over time, they widen, creating an emotional distance that can be difficult, if not impossible, to repair. Trust is one of the first casualties when a good woman feels taken for granted. At its core, trust is built on the understanding that both partners are equally committed to supporting, respecting, and valuing one another. When one person consistently gives more than they receive, the imbalance starts to chip away at that understanding. A good woman may not voice her frustrations immediately because she hopes the situation will improve. She may tell herself that her partner is going through a tough time or that things will even out eventually, but as the pattern of neglect continues, her faith in the relationship begins to falter. The loss of trust doesn't happen all at once. It's gradual, often silent, and that's what makes it so dangerous. Each time her efforts go unacknowledged, a piece of her confidence in the relationship is chipped away. Each time she feels unseen or unheard, the distance between her and her partner grows a little wider. Eventually, the emotional safety that once defined the relationship is replaced by a sense of isolation. She may still be physically present, but emotionally she begins to withdraw, protecting herself from further hurt. Intimacy, both emotional and physical, is another casualty of neglect. A good woman thrives on connection. She wants to feel close to her partner, to share her thoughts, dreams, and vulnerabilities without fear of judgment or dismissal. When she feels valued and appreciated, she opens herself fully, creating a bond that is deep and unshakable. But when she feels taken for granted, that openness becomes a risk. Why would she continue to pour her energy and love into someone who doesn't seem to notice or care? Over time, the walls go up. The laughter, the shared moments of joy, and the quiet times of mutual understanding that once defined the relationship start to fade away. Physical intimacy is deeply tied to emotional connection. When a good woman feels neglected, her desire to engage on a physical level often diminishes. It's not about withholding affection, it's about the natural response to feeling undervalued. So intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust. Without that trust, the physical aspect of the relationship becomes strained, further widening the gap between partners. What was once a source of closeness and joy can turn into a painful reminder of the growing distance. Respect is the foundation upon which every healthy relationship is built. When a good woman feels that her efforts are being overlooked or dismissed, she begins to question whether she is being respected as an equal partner. Respect isn't just about kind words or polite gestures. It's about actions that show her that her time, energy, and emotions are valued. It's about listening when she speaks, acknowledging her contributions, and making an effort to meet her halfway. When respect is absent, the relationship loses its balance. One person becomes the giver while the other becomes the taker, creating a dynamic that is unsustainable in the long run. The loss of trust, intimacy, and respect doesn't just affect the good woman, it affects the entire dynamic of the relationship. It creates a cycle of disconnection where both partners feel increasingly distant from one another. The person taking her for granted may not even realize what's happening until it's too late. By the time they wake up to the reality of the situation, the damage may already be done. A good woman will give her all for as long as she can, but even she has her limits. When she reaches the point where she feels that her efforts are no longer valued, she will walk away not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. Losing a good woman is a profound loss, and it's one that is often felt most acutely in hindsight. The absence of her presence, her care, and her love creates a void that cannot easily be filled. The things that once seemed small and insignificant, her thoughtful gestures, her unwavering support, her ability to make life feel just a little bit brighter, suddenly loom large in their absence. The realization of what's been lost can be overwhelming, but by then, it's often too late to make amends. The good news is that these consequences are avoidable. It doesn't take grand gestures or dramatic changes to make a good woman feel valued. What matters most are the daily actions that show her she is seen, appreciated, and loved. It's about listening with intent, showing up with consistency, and making an effort to understand and meet her needs. It's about creating a partnership where both people feel equally invested and supported. By taking the time to nurture and strengthen the relationship, you can avoid the pain of losing something so precious and irreplaceable. A good woman's love is a gift. Don't wait until it's gone to realize its worth. On a call for accountability. A good woman isn't just a partner, she's a mirror reflecting the best and worst parts of you, challenging you to grow, to evolve, and to strive for more. When she commits herself to a relationship, she doesn't hold back. She shows up with honesty, vulnerability, and the kind of unwavering dedication that can inspire greatness. But being with a good woman also means being willing to confront the parts of yourself that may resist accountability or growth. Her presence demands that you rise to her level of effort and emotional investment, not out of obligation, but because the partnership deserves it. However, when these expectations are ignored or dismissed, it's not just her who suffers, it's both of you. A good woman is not afraid to hold you accountable. She's the kind of person who will call you out when you fall short, not to criticize or belittle, but because she believes in your potential. She wants you to succeed, not just for her benefit, but because she sees the person you could become. Her honesty might feel uncomfortable at times, but it's rooted in love. She's not interested in shallow flattery or empty compliments. She values authenticity. When she challenges you, it's because she knows you're capable of more. But this kind of partnership only works if you're willing to listen, to reflect, and to put in the effort to improve. Ignoring her insights or dismissing her concerns not only disrespects her, but also denies you the chance to grow. Her strength doesn't mean she's impervious to hurt. A good woman might be patient and understanding, but she is not invulnerable. When her concerns are brushed aside or her emotional labor goes unrecognized, it sends a message that her efforts aren't valued. Over time, this dismissal can lead to a breakdown in communication and connection. She may begin to feel like her voice doesn't matter, and that feeling can erode her confidence in the relationship. A good woman doesn't want perfection, she wants effort. She wants to see that you're trying, even if you don't get it right every time. Effort shows her that you care, that you're invested, and that you're willing to meet her halfway. One of the most profound aspects of a good woman's influence is her ability to inspire change. She doesn't demand transformation, but her presence creates an environment where growth feels natural. She leads by example, demonstrating resilience, compassion, and the kind of integrity that makes you want to be better. But that inspiration can only take root if you're willing to embrace it. Growth requires humility, the willingness to admit when you're wrong, and the courage to make changes that might be uncomfortable. When you resist this process or take her efforts for granted, you not only stunt your own development, but also risk losing the connection that makes the relationship so meaningful. A good woman's expectations are not unreasonable. They are a reflection of her self-worth. She knows what she brings to the table, and she expects the same level of commitment and effort in return. When those expectations are met with indifference or excuses, it undermines the partnership. She doesn't need perfection, but she does need consistency. She needs to know that you're willing to put in the work just as she is. When that balance is missing, the relationship begins to feel one-sided. A good woman will give and give, but if she feels that her energy is being drained without reciprocation, she will eventually protect herself by pulling away. The loss of a good woman often comes as a shock to those who take her for granted. Her departure isn't dramatic or vengeful, it's quiet and resolute. She doesn't leave because she wants to, she leaves because she has to. She walks away to preserve her dignity, her self-respect, and her emotional well-being. And when she's gone, the void she leaves behind is palpable. The absence of her presence, her support, and her love is a stark reminder of what was lost. But by the time that realization hits, it's usually too late to repair the damage. The truth is, being with a good woman is a privilege, not a guarantee. It's an opportunity to build something meaningful, something that elevates both of you. But that opportunity requires effort, respect, and a willingness to grow. It's about showing up every day with the intention to nurture the relationship, to appreciate her, and to honor the love you share. A good woman's love is not a given, it's a gift. And like any gift, it deserves to be cherished, protected, and valued. When you truly recognize the worth of a good woman, you don't just keep her in your life, you create a partnership that is strong, fulfilling, and transformative. Her presence challenges you to be your best self, to confront your fears and insecurities, and to strive for a deeper connection. Don't wait until she's gone to realize her value. See her, hear her, and show her that you're committed to growing alongside her. Because when you rise to the challenge of being with a good woman, you don't just elevate the relationship, you elevate yourself. Broader impact. A good woman doesn't just exist in your life as a passive participant. She is the force that holds it together. She's the anchor in a world that constantly pulls us in different directions. Her commitment to your relationship isn't something she does out of obligation. It comes from a deep well of love, trust, and the belief that together, both of you can weather any storm. When a good woman is fully invested in a relationship, she gives it everything she has. She's there for the highs and the lows, the celebrations and the struggles. She's not just a companion, she's a partner in every sense of the word. But when her contributions are taken for granted, when her love and efforts are disregarded or overlooked, she's forced to question whether she is being valued as she should be. The strength of a good woman is often underestimated. People see her resilience, her ability to keep moving forward, and they assume she is invincible. But strength doesn't mean she doesn't need support too. Just because a woman doesn't openly ask for help doesn't mean she isn't silently carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. When a good woman gives everything she has, it's not because she's looking for praise or recognition. She gives because it's in her nature. But at some point, this continuous giving without reciprocity starts to deplete her. When she feels her efforts aren't being noticed or appreciated, it's not just an emotional blow, it can start to chip away at her sense of self-worth. Her patience may run out, her spirit may begin to wear thin, and the very foundation of the relationship begins to crack. What many people fail to realize is that love is not a one-sided endeavor. A good woman invests not just in the relationship, but in the person she loves. She will encourage you when you doubt yourself, pick you up when you fall, and sacrifice her own time, energy, and comfort to see you succeed. She's always willing to put in the work, even when it's hard, because she believes in both of you. But when her love is met with indifference, or when she feels like she's the only one carrying the load, the very essence of what makes her so giving starts to change. She doesn't stop loving, she just becomes more guarded, more cautious because she's been let down before, and it's harder to risk that vulnerability again. The most tragic thing about taking a good woman for granted is that it often happens slowly and without even realizing it. Her presence, her love, and her sacrifices start to become the backdrop of life, taken for granted because they've always been there. You might assume she knows how much she means to you without telling her, but silence and neglect aren't the same as appreciation. Love is not a passive thing. It requires action, it requires acknowledgement, and it requires care. A good woman will show up for you time and time again, but eventually she needs to see that her efforts are being returned in kind. Without that recognition, without that affirmation, the relationship will become one-sided. She will feel as though she's giving more than she's receiving, and over time, that imbalance will drain her, leaving her emotionally exhausted and unfulfilled. The loss of a good woman isn't always about an explosive fight or a dramatic breakup. Sometimes it's a quiet retreat, a slow pullback that goes unnoticed until the space between you feels like an insurmountable gulf. It's in the moments when you no longer talk like you used to, when the conversations are filled with silence rather than connection, and when the things that once felt so natural now feel forced. It's when you begin to realize that you don't feel the warmth of her presence anymore, not because she's physically absent, but because she's emotionally withdrawn. That's the point when you realize just how much you've taken her for granted. And by then, it might be too late to salvage what was once so strong. A good woman is always giving, always supporting, always showing up. But to keep her heart in the relationship, it requires more than just receiving. It means you have to step up too. It means you have to put in the work to make sure she knows she is seen, heard, and appreciated. It's not enough to just expect her to keep giving while you take. You have to invest in her just as she invests in you. Show her that her sacrifices are not unnoticed. Tell her you appreciate her, not just in grand gestures, but in everyday actions. Recognize the little things she does, the way she supports you, and the emotional labor she pours into the relationship. When you make her feel like she matters, not just as someone who is there for you, but as an individual with her own needs and dreams, you create an environment where both of you can thrive. When a good woman feels valued, she will give more of herself, not out of obligation, but out of genuine love. When she knows her efforts are seen, she will continue to pour into the relationship because she believes that what she gives is reciprocated. But if she constantly feels as though she is the one carrying the weight, eventually she will stop carrying it at all. She won't leave because she doesn't love you. She will leave because she loves herself too much to keep sacrificing her own happiness for someone who doesn't see her for who she truly is. A good woman's love is something precious, something rare, and something that should never be taken for granted. Don't wait until she's gone to realize how much she means to you. Recognize her value every single day. Tell her she matters. Show her that you appreciate the countless things she does for you. and put in the effort to build a relationship where both partners are equally committed to supporting and loving each other. Because when you truly value a good woman, you not only keep her, you inspire her to be the best version of herself, just as she inspires you to do the same.